Welcome to the Real Advisor podcast. TRAP, TRAP. Please follow us and join in the conversation on Twitter @Advisor Podcast, where you can suggest ideas and themes you'd like the TRAP team to discuss. Also remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a 6 out of 5-star review on iTunes. Doing all this really helps us, which means we can do more to help you. Now let's head over to the studio for the latest pile of TRAP.
Well, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Real Advisor podcast, TRAP, TRAP. My name is Nick Lincoln. With me, as ever, in the studio of doom are the 3 other horsemen of the apocalypse, Alan Smith, Carl Widger, and Andy Hart. Just want to say a quick word at the start of this before we get into the meat and potatoes. We launched last week. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out boom, boom, boom early on a Friday morning sequentially. We've had a brilliant reception. I'm speaking on behalf of the whole TRAP team here, the production staff, the marketing, the people who run the canteen for us. We are just so grateful. The responses have been brilliant. Way too many to go through individually, but we really do appreciate it. Lee Robertson at Octo Members published a nice long-form piece that was put together promoting us as well. Thanks for that, Lee. We may come across as highly attractive, sexy, successful business entrepreneurs, but actually we're raging insecurity driven people. So the more praise you give us, the better. It really does help us. It gives us that little oomph to do this show. So thank you. This is your show as much as ours, dear Trappists. Great stuff. Thank you. Right. Without any further ado, young Mr. Andy Hart is going to lead us off with the first topic of discussion. But before we do that, Andy, just a quick thing. You went to the CISI had its annual shindig last week in Merseyside at the Maritime Museum. How was it? How was the vibe? But most importantly, how was your train journey getting there?
Yeah, I went to the CISI annual conference. I went last year at the Red Bull HQ, and this year it was in Liverpool. A bit of a nightmare because it was on Wednesday, and there was a train strike on Wednesday, so everybody was trying to find different ways to get there. So I booked my train originally on Wednesday afternoon. I then thought, I'm going to have to go Tuesday night. And then I booked Tuesday night, and I thought, I'm going to be in Liverpool Tuesday night till Friday morning. Like, what madness is this? And I obviously booked a hotel on the Wednesday, the Thursday, and then some bright spark said, why don't you go on Thursday morning, book a train? I was like, okay, fine. I'll book a train, 5:27 train on Thursday morning. I booked it. I was in the taxi on the way to Euston at 5 o'clock. I checked my app, and it said train cancelled. I was like, you are joking me. So I had to go back to where I was and came back 2 hours later. Got up to Liverpool. So I got up to Liverpool somewhat a little bit late, as did everyone. It was very funny. Abraham, who we all know, flew up there. He flew from London to Manchester and then got a taxi from Manchester to Liverpool. Someone else who was talking on ESG investments, believe it or not, had to fly from Exeter to Belfast to Liverpool. 2 flights to talk.
Yeah, that's a classic. That ESG, saving the planet, one plane ride at a time.
He was the ESG keynote speaker. He had 2 flights to get to Liverpool. There was a good bunch. There was a lot of consultants and professionals that I know, and also, financial advisors. A good mix of presentations. A lovely venue, and the evening was good. It was in the St George's Hall. If you know Liverpool, it's a wonder building. It wouldn't be out of place in any major city, London, Rome, New York. It's a very grand building. That was great. That was fun. Black tie. Always interesting getting dressed up these days because we didn't do it obviously for a couple of years. It was decent. I recommend it. It cost me a few quid. I think I booked 3 nights hotels, 3 trains, etc., etc. I had to buy a pair of trousers last minute from Zara because the current ones are a little bit baggy. All in all, it was a good trip. So, I recommend it. You know about that.
You know about that baggy pair since you left school, my friend. Thanks for that.
Happens to be all the time.
Right. Can we ask questions, Nick, please?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go for it.
What was the best presentation you saw?
I met a guy that runs an awesome business called Change Please, as in change, CHANGE, please, which is what they do is they retrain homeless people to become baristas. and they also sell coffee. And it's sort of what's those social enterprise companies? But it's a big company turning over, tens of millions, and they're expanding globally. Yeah, it was an awesome company, and he was talking all about that. And I put him in contact actually with someone at the venue that does impact investing, that's got a fund, and he's looking to raise money. I had a 10-minute phone call conversation. I said, right, there's one guy here you need to meet, and I spoke to the one guy and said, you need to meet this guy. They both spoke to each other and said, right, we're going to meet up in London and hopefully going to do something. That was an awesome company. And then I got on the train on the way back to London, and the lady sat in front of me with a change, please, coffee cup in front of her. And I'm just sort of smiling. That was that was good. There was a couple of other financial planners talking about coaching and various other things. So that's the highlights.
Are you a member of the CISI?
I'm not a member of the CISI, and it's a nightmare because I can't scan in with the app, so I've got to send them an email, and I don't quite know because I'm not chartered. Obviously, proudly not chartered. We could talk about that another show. Proudly not chartered. That's the death knell to your career, young advisors listening. Don't take that seriously. I'm a member of the CII and the PFS, and that's where I do all my stuff. I'm not chartered. I've not done CFP. Proudly. I'm not a member. I was probably the only non-member there.
It's probably another conversation for another time, because we were members of both. And because we are chartered and the company's chartered, and then we had to make a decision. It was like there's these two professional bodies, and you end up having to do your CPD stuff to both of them, and it's just about a nightmare.
Twice
eventually, and they're all kind of the same, really. And it's the Monty Python thing. What?
One had to give.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we're like you
in the background.
We're like you with PFS. That body. It's like the Judean People Front, or the People's Front of Judea. That's a different conversation. Right. What else have you got, Andrew?
The next
Mr.
topic we're going to talk about is...
Yeah, your topic. Who makes the best clients? What makes a good client? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, because this is an advisor-focused podcast, we're going to be talking about things that, advisors chew the fat on, when we meet up in private, I suppose. And obviously we have to be... conscious of how we straddle certain topics. But this is, what makes good clients? Is there a certain makeup of your top 3-5 clients? I suppose we're going down the niche. I like to work with sort of nice, kind, family-orientated decision makers. I don't really have a direct niche. It's a bit of a mix, all of my clients, because they come from sort of here, there, and everywhere. I know we focus on retirees and the approach to retirement, and then business executives and high-earning professionals and all this stuff, but I think most people end up with a bit of a mix of a client bank. I've got a few sort of widows and widowers that I deal with, and I generally say older ladies make slightly better clients than older men. You always got that sort of type A ego situation going on. So I just thought I'd open up that subject because I know this is things that other advisors think about. So is there any defining characteristics? Is it more personality traits? Is it more background? Slightly older clients are a little bit more wiser and a little bit more calmer and a little bit more open to professionals than, let's say, younger clients. Again, it's massive overgeneralizations, and I know there's going to be anecdotes to everything that we say. So that's it, really, opening that subject matter. What makes good clients? We want clients for life, set for life. So we don't want to be taking on clients and then running into a bit of a personality clash and then having to disengage them or they disengage us. I've lost 5 clients in my life. I've disengaged 4. One's disengaged me. And it was painful, those 5 disengagements, but it's not the end of the world, considering how many clients I've dealt with. There's a bit of a background into this. Over to you, Carl. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when we would have started up and we were a much younger company than we are now, everyone was a client, and we'll be honest enough to say that, right? As we've kind of matured a little bit, we have done a bit of work around this, and the latest iteration of our website, which was done maybe 2 years ago, we did try and nail this down a little bit more. Now, when I say nailing it down a little bit more, it's certainly not niches that the marketeers would like you to have. And that's kind of me just thinking, well, look, Ireland isn't exactly a massive market, and I think niching into too narrow a niche would be foolish. So broadly speaking, the three kind of where we add the best value, the people we work the best with, Andy, is kind of how I would describe it. And they are business owners, and it's I can narrow that a little bit down, right? It's kind of business owners who are now starting to think about what's going to happen when or if I sell. So that might be 10 years out, 5 years out.
Yeah,
it's people as we describe as succeeding in your career. So that's like we've a good few kind of senior VPs in multinationals, that kind of stuff. People who will have the maximum pension pot, who, funnily enough, build wealth almost in spite of themselves, right? Because they don't look at it and they don't tend to engage, we've found, too much with financial planners. But kind of a couple of years out, they're going, okay, maybe we need to start thinking about this. So we have a good few of those. That's definitely a big growing market for us, actually. And then we have people who are kind of at or in retirement. So it might be people who have already taken the plunge and are going, okay, we need to... They all have that question that we've spoken about before. Are we going to be okay? And where their intuition might be telling them, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. We have enough money. Maybe a year or two into retirement, they're going, hold on, if we keep the current burn of our cash, are we going to run out of cash? And we'd love a plan. We'd love somebody to kind of keep us accountable, make sure that the plan is correct, is everything is in order. And I found, for me, that's probably the most interesting bunch of people, because they're a little bit like what you said earlier on. They're mature, so they've been around the block. They know what they want to do with their lives. They know what's most important to them. They figured all that stuff out before they've come to us. So talking to those people about goals, dreams, and aspirations and bucket lists, and they're kind of easy conversations. Whereas other people who haven't even ever thought about it, it can be trickier to kind of get into that interesting stuff. And that's the stuff that, look, it's easy to say, but it's really exciting as a financial planner, right? To sit with people and start talking about goals, dreams, and aspirations. That's inspiring for the financial planner as much as it is for the client. So they're fantastic conversations to have. Yeah. So broadly speaking, they're kind of the three client segments that we work best with. And really, what we'd ask ourselves in Metis all the time is, if they're outside of those three groups, which are broad enough groups, well, we need to be asking, why are we doing business with people? So, and I know, Andy, you and I have spoken about this, and I think you mentioned it in one of the previous podcasts, about maybe doing business for children of clients. So we will obviously do that kind of stuff. So it's not as if we'll turn people away if their parents are clients.
We'll go into Alan in a second. The other thing I look for is being organised and motivated, and they have to be good at tech. I mean, nowadays it's just painful, the amount of tasks you need to do with clients. So I'm sussing that out early on. Again, it might sound a bit odd, but it's just, you've got to have a smooth process of all this stuff. So organised and motivated is the key thing. And
yeah, and good at tech. We've seen your frustrations this morning when I couldn't get my earphones working on the tech. So we do not demand such qualities from our clients.
It's reading, writing, arithmetic, and technology. When people say I'm not good at technology, it's like someone saying, I can't spell, I can't add up. I mean, it's important.
They might be plenty good at technology, just they're not as good as you at technology. Right?
No, I get that, but they need to be able to do relatively simple things like send me an attachment, sign something, scan a document. I mean, yeah,
Chairman Nick, intervene.
No, it's fine. Alan, we'll talk in a second. I would just say I did recently. Sack sounds such a horrible phrase, isn't it? I did part company with clients I've had for years who just don't use technology, and it was just driving me scatty. And they were nice. I liked them. They were good fee earners for my practice, but it was just becoming an absolute drag. And I just thought, you know what, life's too short. And I said, you know, you're better off finding an advisor who's local to you, who will give you the home visits that you want, who will give you the paper life that you want.
Print out the documents.
I'm transitioning, not in that sense, but I'm transitioning away from the traditional way of doing things to the more Zoom-based electronic. Sorry, right, Alan Smith, go, sir.
That's interesting listening to you there, Carl, because your niche is business owners, employees, and retirees. So pretty much everyone.
That's the story. Everyone with a few quid, basically.
Yeah,
everyone with
money,
a few quid.
In.
Yeah,
it used to be if you could breathe, you're in. Now you got a few quid, you're in. Like you, we've done a lot. And I say that, you know, in jest and tongue in cheek, because we were, until quite recently, in fact, probably our collateral and materials hasn't been updated enough yet, because we were kind of that as well. We talked about entrepreneurs, senior executives, and retirees. Those are the three sweet spots for most of us. But we've done a bit more work on this, and of course we're in London, so there is more opportunity. There's a bigger pool of potential clients, and we created something like like the marketing people would have you talk about a persona, an avatar. So we've got this couple, capital Chris, capital Kate, and you go into some detail about, you know, their lifestyles, their ages, their children, and all that sort of stuff. And through that, you can identify where their pain points are. So we know that the more specific and targeted you can be in any walk of life, it's in any professional services walk of life, you know, the more response you'll have from that target audience. But you've got to start with identifying, are there enough? You go back to, you know, begin with the end in mind. How many people like this actually exist? There's an increasing amount of data available for you. And say, well, if we captured 0.5% of that market, for example, would that be enough to feed us, if you like? So you can go niche and super niche, but there has to be a big enough pool of potential clients to do it. So an ideal client, like all the, you know, there's a sort of profile about like their position in life, merely their ages, but ultimately we all want to deal with people. I think all of us have got mature enough businesses that we're no longer desperate for the next potential client, you know, to sign up to pay the bills. So, you know, being nice, being engaging, being responsive, I think is part of it as well. And it's sometimes you do have to, we've done it, not often, but a couple of times, just professionally and in a friendly way, part company. It's still very awkward to do, but if someone's not engaging, it just makes all our lives far more difficult. So good conversation.
It's the All Blacks rule, isn't it? The no dickheads rule. I try and employ it in my entire life, really. And it's the whole Nick Murray thing, isn't it? Clients become friends, friends become clients. You know, you're taking on these people, they're going to come into your life and they will become friends over time. That's a good thing, because friends listen to each other and they can be, you know, brutally honest with each other, which is also good in this mighty profession. Nick, anything on this subject?
Yeah, a couple of points. You talk about clients becoming friends. I had an annual planning meeting yesterday with clients, and I've been working with them 13 years, and I now do the financial. They send me their updated financials each year, and what they think they're going to be spending going forward, any one-off projects, and I do the financial plan in my office, and then I go. Yesterday I went and saw them for lunch, and I didn't even do the financial planning with them. I said, I've done it. They know me now. They trust me. Because they're friends, and after a while you become the message. You know, it's not what you say, it's how you say and who's saying it. That's what people buy into eventually, once you've got that rapport going. So I didn't even take my laptop and my cash flow modeling software. I said, listen, you told me you want to spend 60k on renovating the house. I've run the figures, and you're going to be fine. And the nice thing is they're bright, right? And they've got money, they've got wealth, but they just needed somebody to sit on their shoulder and give them permission. And I'm saying to them as friends, I'm giving you permission. Go forth and do what you want to do on the house. You intuitively know you can afford this, and it's not going to put you in financial peril later on. Crack on and do it. So that's the thing about clients becoming friends. I had such an informal, you know, we were just having a nice meal, just joking and chatting with them and everything else. And the other thing I'd say about the ideal client, and I would trust on this, okay, you've got your client personas and you've got your niches that you want. But the most thing is go with your intuition. Just you'll know within 30 seconds whether or not you can work with these people for the next 30 years. And the gut feel thing is so strong, and you ignore it at your peril. If someone comes across as a mucker or a waster, get them out of the door politely. Get them out of the door, and, you know, nurse, bring the next patient in. That's trust you.
I think this is what's happened. This is
you spot the red flags.
The evolution of the last sort of 10 or 20 years or so in our profession, because it used to be much more a transactional, sales-driven experience. So it kind of didn't matter if they were going to, buy a policy. Doesn't matter. But now every client you sign up now has a unique place in your life and your calendar.
Yeah,
and they're in your calendar every year. You ask yourself at that stage: do I want this person? Do I want 3 hours of my life every year for the next 10 years with this person? And that's quite a defining decision.
And the trouble is, it won't. If you bring a mucker on board, it won't be 3 hours, will it? It'll be 30 hours.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look,
we red flags.
Yeah, we do talk about that privately amongst ourselves, don't we? About red flags, and your intuition, as you say, Nick. That
Andy's got a lot. He's got yellow cards and red flags, isn't he? Some get a yellow card early on, and then a red flag.
We talk about this privately, don't we? But
Andy is a very trigger happy with his yellow card. He gives out yellow cards. So I'm like,
red cards. Red cards. There's red flags with clients, which we all know what they are, but we can maybe talk about them another time. There's amber flags. You think they don't quite know about it. It's just a little bit of their sort of inexperience, or it's an area they don't know. And then there's obviously green flags. I want help and I'm happy to pay fees. I've got a load of money, all the sort of stuff that we know.
Good tech.
But the other thing as well, back to Alan's point, I've found in recent years, when people haven't gone on the quest to find a financial advisor, they think financial advisors are desperate to take them on. So they'll call up one person and be a little bit rude and be like, well, I got this, so you're going to come and see it. And the advisor might be like, we don't really do that. And they think, oh my God, I got pushed back there. And then the next person they call, they're a lot more, I'm looking for a financial advisor. Is there any chance you can help? They're a lot more sort of cordial to the process. And they might have got pushback from about 3 or 4 financial advisors. And then they'll ring up the 5th one and they'll go, what have I got to do to get a financial advisor? Like, I thought this would be easy, and you guys and girls will be clamoring to my door to sign me up. And we're all sort of screening them going, no, I don't want you from a sort of personality point of view. I don't want you from a wealth point of view. It's because there's not many financial advisors.
We describe that initial conversation with a prospective client, and we say, the purpose of that is just to identify if you're a good fit for us, if we're a good fit for you. Because sometimes we meet people that aren't a great fit for us, but we'd happily send you to somewhere else where you might be a better fit. And all of a sudden, the dynamics change. You're right. They go, hang on a minute. I thought every advisor wants my business. Well, maybe not. And that's the thing. Once you've been in business for a while and you've got a mature business, you definitely not. You are considering.
I haven't gone full steam ahead with it, but I think some people call them client interviews. Like a discovery meeting. We'll have an interview to see if you're a fit for us. And immediately the framing of that is Jesus Christ, I didn't realize you were interviewing me. I mean, it's the whole Nick Murray thing, isn't it? We're qualifying them, they're not qualifying us.
I heard on one of your on your latest podcast, Andy, the personal trainer guy that you interviewed was really good. And he does personal repellent marketing on his website. So he's kind of pre-screening people, saying, if you're not X, Y, and Z, basically don't contact me.
We're not going to get on. Yeah.
And I thought it was, maybe not quite as harsh as how he puts it, but your marketing messaging can help in terms of screening people before they even come to you for that first meeting. So I think to focus in on that would be a good idea for everybody. Tell people in all of your messaging,
Carl. We've given that a good going over. I'm going to draw a line under it because we're Tempest is fugiting as we speak. So we mentioned that the vetting process, that discovery meetings, the client thinks they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them, and that is a Nick Murrayism. And on that note, Nick Murray had his annual behavioural conference last week. He used to do it in Manhattan. And he's certainly been. I think, Alan, you might have been. I can't remember. I never had the chance to go. He's not doing the physical meetings anymore. It's all online. I attended that online thing last week, and it was, I know some of us are a little. I can feel people in the trap studio raising their eyebrows at Nick Murray a little bit. Yes, he does say the same thing pretty much every year. He finds new ways to say it, and he invents new words to say it that go on Andy's new word list that he's building up in the background.
True story.
He talks about dispensing the vitamin C to clients all the time. And when I listen to Nick Murray, it's dispensing the vitamin C for me. It's just, oh yeah, you know what, he is right, and that's a nice turn of phrase, and these stats do add up. It was very good. The best part, he does 3 sessions and then a Q&A session at the end, which is like overcoming objections. Although he wouldn't call it that, he'd slap me if I said overcoming objections. And the Q&A bit is very good. How when somebody has an objection to or raises something, just ask what the real, just keep on ask a question back and find out what the real issue is, because prospects will ask a question, but that's not actually the question they're asking. They just, there's something else going on, and you just got to peel the onion very slowly. So that was very good. I don't have much more to say on that, except to say that on the back of the whole behavioural thing, which I think we're all wedded into, right? That's our value proposition, really. Is here's Mr. and Mrs. Client, here's your plan, here's the next 30 years of your life. We're going to keep you on this plan, right? We're going to stop you blowing yourself up, and we're going to save you tax and costs and expensive fees along the way, but we're going to stand between you and stupid. And Alan, yesterday on Twitter, I saw you put a story out there about floundering robo-advisors. The fact that these robo-advisor platforms that have no human element, have no behavioral element, it's just the investor and a sell and a buy button online. They are losing assets hand over fist in the current climate. And one quote from the article, and I put a link to the article in the so-called show notes. Many investors are facing extreme and complicated market conditions for the first time, causing some paralysis and panic. Thank you. That's why we're here. So if you've got any thoughts on that, I'm happy to move on to the next comment.
Just on the Nick Murray conference, Nick, can you explain? You probably be able to know the story better. This is a football, and the coach that's attributed to. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so with Nick Murray, it's often just go back to basics, right? Let's just start from first principles, and every behavioural conference he outlines the principles. This is a football. Okay, so I'm an NFL sado, so you can make your own judgment about that. But there is a franchise, and there was a franchise called the Green Bay Packers, and it's still in existence. And in 1959, it was an awful franchise. It just couldn't win a match. They had a very good roster of players, a very good squad, but they couldn't win a game. It was only a 14-game season then, and I think they finished 2-10 in that season. And then they hired this guy called Vince Lombardi. Now, even people that don't know about the NFL have probably heard of Vince Lombardi, because each season the NFL winner, the one who wins the Super Bowl, holds up the Vince Lombardi trophy. That's how big this guy is. And Vince Lombardi is I'm trying to think of I suppose Alex Ferguson would be the one in football. I mean, Vince Lombardi, he turned around the Green Bay Packers and he went back to first principles with them when he took over in 1959, and he got all these the squad's about 60, these young men, and he held up a football and said, "This is a football, and our goal is to get it from this end of the pitch to the other, and this is how we're going to do it." And it was just, okay. It was like fundamental. One of the wiseacres in the room said, "Can you slow down, coach? You've lost me." That's a true story. And that was it. So back to this archetypal genius of American football whose plays and schemes are still used today. He started it all off, the transformation of Green Bay Packers into this magnificent franchise by saying, "This is a football," and that's what Nick Murray was alluding to with his.
And wasn't out of the 60 players, there was 8 future Hall of Famers in that bunch of 60. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I know.
That were obviously terrible in 1959.
Yeah. So they had everything there, but a good coach, and the good coach came in and transformed them, and
isn't that it's amazing. There's great books written about Lombardi, and he's just inspired generations. But isn't that very representative of our industry, our profession, where people try to complicate and and build in different investment propositions and alternatives and you name it? No, just get back to basics. What are we trying to do? We're trying to get you from here to there safely, and there only are a handful of things you ought to do consistently. But the industry likes to complicate things.
Oh my God! You just nailed. We could talk about this forever. How and that these when we know who they are, they're out there. That these brands that overcomplicate to justify their fees, and it's an absolute curse on our profession. And you're absolutely right. The more you learn about the profession, the more you unlearn, and you strip back to the bare basics. This is a football.
Shrink your circle of competence.
you're going to run out of money in retirement unless you do this and this. And this is how we're going to get you there, play by play by play, and we'll win your Super Bowl for you, okay? I'll be coaching you to your Super Bowl success. Enough of the tortuous analysis, or analogies even. Mr. Smith, you've got a topic you want to talk about, which is Mastermind Groups.
Right, okay. All right, do your jingle then. I've got to start with it.
Grab yourself a drink, a very long drink. It's story time with Alan Smith.
All right, thank you, Nick. When I came into this illustrious profession, or when I set up as an IFA, I started meeting a few other IFAs, and there was one, and I'm going to give him a name check here, shout out. His name is John Joseph, he's just kind of going into retirement now, but his son, Jimmy, is taking over his business. He runs a good financial planning practice in North London, but John was super kind, as many other people were at the time when I was sort of a young, aspiring IFA. And John says to me, who at the time ran a really successful, busy firm in the West End of London, and I knew him of old, and he said, look, when you get started, setting up your own business, or almost any financial planning business, even the bigger ones, are pretty small businesses. But I was sort of a sole trader, one-man band. He said, you've got to get into a network. You've got to meet other like-minded advisors like you. So he invited me into something back in those days, which then was called the West End Breakfast Club. And it was a group of probably about 18, 20 advisors. I mean, it tells you how long ago it was, because I was the youngest, or one of the youngest, going into that group, and the rest were just there was seasoned professionals, and we'd meet for breakfast in a hotel in the West End of London, and they would just share all their ideas, insights, experiences. In those days, we used to have somebody come along, from an investment company, and who would present their products or services, so they would cover the cost of breakfast. But we've moved on from that, and certainly the London-based people on this in the Trap group, I think all three of us, Andy, Nick, and I, still continue to go. I invited Andy in to join this group because I still go every month. It's now called
about
the
9
Ideas
years ago,
Exchange.
Alan.
Yeah,
I've been there 9 years.
We managed to get Nick in, and it was a tough, because there's a vote whether new members can come in or not, and I can tell you it was the voting was tight.
It was the highest black ball we've ever had. It was 6 black balls.
Who needs enemies, Nick?
7. It was 7. I had seven black balls.
They had to look at the club rules to go, what do we do in these situations? Is there a majority thing? Surely 3 black balls and you're out, regardless of how many, white balls
I honestly, it was an off-the-record conversation I had with the chairman of the group, just to say, are you sure about this guy? There's loads of people don't want him in. I said, no, trust me, he's value for money. Get him in. And of course,
don't labour it. Don't bloody labour it.
He's thrived ever since. So this is
he turns up every single month knowing there are 7 people here.
But I'm working out who they are.
I think he knows who they are.
He's won them over. He's won them over.
He's won them over. He's told them. They've told him, sorry. Yeah.
But the point of this, so this group now is called Ideas Exchange. We meet for breakfast once a month, usually the second Wednesday of the month, start about kick-off 8 in the morning, goes to about 11:30. Sometimes there's a theme, sometimes someone comes in, but we don't get any fund managers or anything like that. Some, interesting people. I mean, I don't think it's secret, but we had people like Tony Adams came in and gave a talk about mental health and his personal journey. We've had a number of really, really interesting characters have come in. But probably the best part of it is the ideas, the experiences. We all, people
within the group, yeah.
But within the group, and obviously it is confidential within the group. There's a sort of safety net within the group, but there's some fantastic practitioners, business owners, and they do range from sole traders to quite large companies within the group. And I, as I said, I've been going for best part nearly 20 years now, and I still show up every month, and I think it's great value. And the reason I've raised this is I had a couple of months ago, another advisor contacted me saying, because I think you or I, Andy, posted something on Twitter about this group, and someone else said,
we do
I love that idea.
A monthly FOMO post on Twitter, don't we?
Yeah. But so someone contacted me and said, love this idea, can we, and I got on a call with him, how do you set up the group? Because I don't know what if you do anything in Carl, or what the market is like in Ireland, Carl, about these groups, but getting together with a number of in theory, competitors, but in reality, sort of peers and allies. And well, I know that, Andy in particular with his, amber flags and his red flags. And so he wouldn't show up every month if it wasn't any value. And similarly for Nick. So I guess we're all getting a lot of value out of it. And I wonder, actually, I'll invite you, maybe Andy, just to say, because you've been in it for quite a few years now, and you still show up. What's your take on mastermind groups?
Andy, then Carl. Yeah.
Well, it's a wider issue, isn't it, in the whole personal development and life development. I think it's Think and Grow Rich. The book talks about masterminds. So masterminds are incredibly important. I'm sort of part of quite a few in the financial advisor community. I'm sort of, I don't know, the leader of the Voyantist group. Nick's got a sort of separate online mastermind group that he runs called the IFA Forum or something. In terms of my networking with IFAs, the Ideas Exchange is definitely the best thing I do. I fall in and out of love with it every so often and have good meetings and bad meetings, but overall, I'm still turning up and I'm still paying my money. And the knowledge in that room, if that room doesn't know an answer to a financial advisor question, then no room's going to know the answer to it, basically. It's a mix of enormous businesses and little old me and then everything in between. And it is all business leaders and decision makers. Masterminds are absolutely brilliant. We went virtual during COVID, like everybody did. Now we've gone back to face-to-face. And as I say, people within that room know pretty much everything that you're going to come across business-wise. So I'm a huge fan of it. We're sort of at capacity at the moment, I think, of that Ideas Exchange. I think we're up to about 40 people. It's once a month, which is great. Like weekly is relentless. I used to be part of BNI when I was fresh into the business, which was great. I learned so much from it, but weekly is relentless. Yeah, it was. I need to learn how many of these things we've got. Five. We've got 5 yucks.
What was that for, Nick? Was that for BNI?
It was for BNI. Although to be fair, I think we've all I got value from BNI at the start, but the weekly thing, and you have to bring a
it's
like at 5 in the morning or something.
You've got to. Andy, go on.
Yeah. So monthly is pleasurable, if that's the right word, or pleasant. I think we meet 11 times a year now. We cut the August off, and sometimes we have a Zoom meeting. So I think people are unofficially in mastermind groups being financial advisors, and they just communicate with their peers, or they're officially in mastermind groups. And sometimes people don't even call them masterminds. They just say there's a meeting I'm part of. I think there's definitely value of setting up something in Ireland, Carl, but I just don't know who would run it and how often it would be. But I mean, you can just clone our format basically. And I think you get a shed load of value from it. Over to you, Carl, I think is next.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it. One of your FOMO tweets did inspire Dave Quinn to contact me and say, hey, Carl, we should do something. And Dave runs a really good financial planning business. So I 100% would be interested in talking to other firms in Ireland who do real financial planning. The problem is, are there enough out there, and is there an appetite to do it? Because the spirit of collaboration that you guys have, I think it's probably easier because it's a much bigger market, being fair. I'm not sure that same spirit of collaboration exists over here. Maybe I'm wrong though, right? So, and I'd be definitely open to exploring that more. I suppose my mastermind group is this is it.
I was going to say, so this is another example.
I've got so much really, really good stuff. Like we have a WhatsApp group, and there are 100 messages about nothing, and then there's always that one, right? That you're going, that is really good.
Yeah, WhatsApp groups are digital mastermind groups, aren't they?
Yeah. When we go out, okay, Nick.
We get the point.
Yeah. Is it on loop?
Yeah.
He's literally frozen.
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah. I think after when we go out for our beers once every few months, there's always ideas. Hey. There's always ideas on that, and if I'm flying back, I just do voice memos to myself, right? And then
you can remember them after the beers.
No, I have to sometimes go to the toilet.
Good luck with that.
Remember tomorrow that this is a great idea.
Oh, is that what you're doing? I wonder.
No, but genuinely, yeah, it's great. It's great. It's a great idea, and I'm all for it. I think.
So, Carl, if anyone, because this podcast has has been quite successful in our early stages in Ireland. So if anyone is interested in connecting with you, they should reach out via this method and start your own. Start virtual if you want.
Yeah, and we'll get Nick to organise that as well, because I'm definitely
Nick can host that. He's very popular in Ireland as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
To get started, to get started on the Irish Mastermind, I think you need 10 advisors. And you're right, Carl. You want them to all be similar, but you don't want it to be an echo chamber. So you don't mind someone who's sort of transitioning. It's not pure financial planning, but still their heart's in the right place. We've got a bit of a mix in our one, and there's a couple of sharks swimming around, and then there's some, full authentic
who are all
ones.
listening to
names.
this.
I know. Yeah.
Good
They
luck
know
at your
who
next
they
breakfast
are.
meeting, boys.
They know they are.
I disassociate myself from that comment. Completely.
Lawyers are right.
That was a bit of an
It's
extreme comment, but you understand what I'm saying.
No, don't. No.
I
by your comment.
just looking to wrap this up. So the most recent meeting of the Ideas Exchange, we didn't have a guest. We just had in-house the advisors that were there sharing and talking for the best part of 2.5 hours. And I thought it was the best one I've been to, mainly because I spoke quite a bit. That is a joke. I like having the external speakers, but I love it when you talk to your peers. It's like, we also the same thing when you go to a conference. The best bits generally aren't the speaker, unless they're really fantastic. The best bits are the bits in between, the seminars, and the bits at the end over a glass of wine and maybe half a sherry and some food. That's somebody somewhere, one of your peers is going to say something, and you're going to think, that's paid for my day.
Bang.
That's
literally paid for my day.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And that's why
my £1,500 trip to Liverpool.
Is when we're talking. So, Alan, are you done on that subject, sir? That's very good.
I am. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Good
we are cracking on now. We've covered the topics for this week. We're already over 40 minutes in, so I think it's time that we maybe go over and deal with some listener audience questions. So I'm going to fire off the first one. This is from a lady called Kathy Brennan. She's on Twitter as @WomenFinanceNI, as in Northern Ireland, @WomenFinanceNI. I hope you're including women in finance when you chat, asks Kathy. Yeah, we will include women when we chat, Kathy. We will include anyone when we chat if they are of interest to us. And in that sense, we are truly inclusive. What we won't do and what we will never do is focus on someone just because of their immutable characteristics. We don't care what gender you are. We don't care what race you are, what religion you follow, your ethnicity, what abilities or disabilities you have. We will discriminate purely on whether or not we think you are a person of interest and whatever you're in the news for is of interest to the Trap audience. And if these people happen to be female, fabulous. That is the end of that. Next question that Carl will take is from Trappist John Doyle. He too is on Twitter @Juniper_John. John spelt without the H-J-O-N.
Good guy, runs a good firm. Good guy, runs a good firm.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And John's question is, what are the essential elements required to make a financial plan a comprehensive financial plan? And how must this be presented to a client to warrant it being called a financial plan? Or to put it another way, what elements, when removed from a financial plan, keep with me, leaves it being just a recommendation with objectives? The physical financial plan appears to be oft talked about at a high level, but rarely spoken or debated in detail, which I think leaves people either producing endlessly complex plans with unnecessary detail, amen, in the pursuit of perfection, or the other extreme, where I know advisors who pay lip service to financial planning, but wouldn't know it if it slapped them in the face. Yeah, amen to that as well. Carl, what are your views on that, sir?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm so with him on that. John, is it John Doyle?
Yeah.
There's so many advisors out there who say they do real financial planning, but they don't at all. So, look, to answer the question, for me, I think if you can get away from this idea that a financial plan answers all the questions and start thinking about it in terms of it's a process. And that goes all the way back, doesn't it, to about us working with clients over a number of years. So it's not a one and done. So if you can establish with your clients from the outset that, look, we're going we're going to put this plan in place, but there's absolutely nothing surer than it's wrong. You can't get a 40, 50, 60-year plan correct. You just can't. What you're trying to do is get on track. And as you said earlier on, Nick, get from A to B over a long period of time. But things are going to have to change. So you got to, I think, absolutely make sure integral and central to everything you're doing and you're speaking to the clients about is, especially at the implementation stage, that look, we're just setting this up, but we're going to review it on an ongoing basis. And that's why the annual meetings are really, really important. And the second thing I'd say, what makes it rather than, a kind of a jumped up just recommendation. And I love the way he said that, right? It has to be goals based. It has to be lifestyle based. So for me, I say it always in Metis, if you're not talking to your clients about three things at every meeting, goals, dreams, and aspirations, you haven't actually bought into the Metis way. So that's what differentiates us from, I know what's the best pension fund. No, we all know. Nobody knows that, right? What we do is we help our clients to establish what they really want to do with their lives, and then to bring them on that journey over time, to use their resources to actually match the lifestyle that they want to live. So for me, the two things in summary are, it's a process and it has to be lifestyle, goals, dreams, and aspirations led all the time. But very interested to hear what everyone else thinks about this. I think it's a brilliant question, by the way.
Okay, I'll go, and then maybe I'll bring in Alan. So the financial plan, and I'm talking here real down in the weeds stuff here, okay, and stuff that most of our listeners, most of the audience will know, has to incorporate the client's goals, aspirations, and then all their incomes, current assets, and all their future incomes and future assets matched against their current lifestyle and their projected lifestyle for the next 3-4 decades. Now that sounds elemental, right? But if you haven't got that stuff, then you're not even at the races. And then you have a basis of a financial plan. And if people don't know what they're going to spend in retirement, then the answer is, well, they don't want to spend any less than they've got now, right? So if their lifestyle cost is 50k now, but they can't see what they're going to spend in retirement, assume it's going to be 50k per annum going forward. But the financial plan is done with the clients. I mean, this, and certainly initially, you do the financial planning with the clients. You don't send out these awful reports, these tomes that nobody reads. You keep it very simple, stupid. You maybe have 2 or 3 sort of what-if iterations in the financial plan, but it's fluid. You do it. The plan, the power of the plan is in the planning, right? And it's the chance for the client to say, well, Nick, what if we do this? Which you can't do if you've got an A4 leather-bound thing slamming through your letterbox. You can't look at that and say, oh, Nick, what if we do this? But you can if you're involved in the actual planning meeting, the graphs are on screen and you're working it through. But there's got to be a certain level of information, incomes, assets, future incomes, assets. You can't get away from that stuff. That is without that, and the most important one is knowing the lifestyle cost, right? Because that's what you're looking to protect. We do all of this we do it for ourselves, for all of our clients. We're answering that question, have we got enough? And what do we mean by enough? We mean enough to reasonably be sure we can fund our lifestyle without fear of later on running out of money. That's the gospel according to all of us, really. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, there's fewer subjects that there's been more navel gazing in our industry about, and sort of hand wringing and working out what's the best thing. And funny you say these sort of leather bound huge documents. When I got started, we used to call them dog killers because they were like 100 pages long. And when the postman posts them through the letterbox, the poor dog sitting underneath the letterbox gets smashed by this thing landing on its head and knocks the dog out because it's.
Where's the applause sound, Nick? Dog killers.
Yeah. We're laughing, fella. This is
new information today.
It's dog killers, and so we've learned over the years that dog killers don't work. I think the biggest one that we did was 132 pages long, A4 bound, and
I've had 450 pages, 6 options.
To this day, client never read it, but engaged and so on. And so there's this kind of modern approach about can you distill. I agree with what everyone has said. It's an experience, it's a process, it's what you do, but how do you distill it all down, and what is the deliverable ultimately, other than when you're sitting across the table or having a nice lunch. I thought that was really nice how you described that earlier, Nick, because you didn't even bring out a financial plan, but they got planned, if you like, and you just said,
I mean,
you're on track.
13 years in.
You've earned the trust.
They are absolute fine-tuned 13 years in.
Yeah. Exactly. But there's something. Have you? You might be aware. So the stuff that I look at now, there's loads and loads of new examples and 1-page, 2-page, 3-page plans, and they're full of nice images and graphics and pie charts and so on. Which is, again, they look pretty and colourful, but I'm not necessarily sure that they deliver what you need to deliver. I'm reminded of in Amazon, they've done away years ago. If you read about Bezos and what he's done at Amazon, they did away with PowerPoint presentations years ago. And what they have is just like a 1-page, a narrative, how you describe exactly what you want to talk about. And I think there's a version of that. In fact, Carl Richards produced something a while ago, just a 1-page, and it's written document, and it's just got a paragraph about values and goals. And then it's got next actions. It's just got the 3 things that you will do or I will do in order to achieve the things you've identified. There's no pie charts or graphs or anything. And the third part of this is just, when do we next reassess? And it's either I'll see you in 12 months or something's coming up in 6 months. We'll have a further conversation. Now, that to my mind is something you could print off and put beside your desk or have in your wall or something if you were a client. And that's engaging. And I'll read that. And I will see what I have to do as part of the process to make sure I achieve what's been identified in literally 1 or 2 lines at the top of this 1-pager. So I think we can post an example of that on the show notes, because I just really like that. It's just written documents on 1 page. Andrew, you are the king of financial planning, voyant black belt, all that stuff. What's your deliverable to a client?
Well, I've built thousands of financial plans live with clients. I've been training advisors for 12 years. Yeah, I live, sleep, and breathe financial planning. Put the old sounds on, Nick. First and foremost, financial planning is a completely separate skill. There's three skills the advisor needs to learn. The first one is financial.
All hail.
He's been
all
feeling
hail
left
God
out. He's been
Hart.
feeling left out. He doesn't have a jingle. There's yours. Hallelujah.
The throat is still not fixed. There's 3 skills.
What's wrong with your throat?
Yeah, how'd that happen?
Tell us.
I had a little bout of maybe COVID, actually. Weirdly,
that'd be right. That'd be right.
Moving on. Anyway,
we're going to have an X-rated version of this sometime.
Back to reality. Come on, let's go.
Right, bye.
The Patreon subscription one. Yeah, so you've got to learn financial services, which is basically financial rules, admin, and tax. You've then got to learn investment management, which is managing money, looking after clients' money, asset allocation. And then the third skill is financial planning. People think they're by default financial planners because they've done the CFP, because they've written on their website, because they understand investment management. They don't. It's a completely separate skill.
Bullshit.
And the only way you can do it is using proper, sophisticated financial planning software. The market we work in is incredibly complicated. Tax, financial rules, it's a mess. So to have a piece of software, it needs to be pretty comprehensive. Back to what Nick says, it needs to be income expenditure forever, every single year, and assets and liabilities and what that looks like. You need to be building it live with your clients. It is fluid and collaborative. Yes, it will be wrong, Carl, but I'm 12 years into building real plans of real people. And where I told my clients 12 years ago where they're going to be in 2022, we're not that far off. I know as every year goes, there's a bit of a gap, but it's scary how accurate I've been. I've had to look, I don't know if Nick's done this as well. I've had to look at the assets, liquid assets, and go, I said the liquid assets are going to be X and they're X minus a couple of £1,000. And I'm like, is that real? Is my guesstimate has been that accurate? Again, people that don't build financial plans, that just slate financial planning software, have never done what I just explained and seen like the continued journey of a financial plan that's been built. It's I think it's the only fun left in this business, to be totally fair. Financial planning, all the other stuff is plumbing and admin. It's a great question, John. You need to be using sophisticated software. There's a few options out there. Obviously, I'm hugely pro Voyant. I think it's still the best on the market by a country mile. But there's a few others that can do it. And back to Nick's point, we are the financial plan. We are the attitude to risk. The message is the messenger and all that. So That's my 2 pence on it. But yeah, financial planning is a separate skill. And yeah, the definition of a financial planner is if a client couple rocked up, sat right in front of me now and said, Andy, I want to build a financial plan, I'd be able to go, absolutely fine, let's go through that and build that live now. If you can't do that, you're not a financial planner. So that's my
disagree.
The reality is
disagree.
But very few people are going to do that.
That's fine.
I
That's
think
totally
the bigger definition
I'm a hands-on
is
practitioner.
somebody rocks up to you, or that same couple rocks up and says, Andy, can you help us review our pensions? And you go into a financial plan. That's the pivot that you should be able to do, as opposed to just focus on the initial thing.
If you're calling yourself a financial planner, you need to be able to build financial plans. If I'm calling myself a bricklayer, I need to be building walls. So I'm calling myself a financial planner. I can build financial plans. End of.
Exactly. Now, it is very nuanced. I have met people. We've recruited people into our team here, and I've interviewed them, and they've come from firms that if you've heard about them, you looked at their website, planning, and you speak to these, obviously no names mentioned, but you speak to some of the people who've been working there. They say, well, we do it now and again. If a client asks for it, what client asks for a financial plan? There's a lot of waffle and talk about this, but the actual definition, this is John's original point. The definition is, well, it's loose, isn't it? All right, Nick, I'm getting the hand wave. Time to move on.
So Carl, you said disagree. To tell us briefly, Carl, why you disagreed, and then we'll draw a line under this topic.
Well, I'll tell you for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've never built a financial plan in my life, but I'm heading up, I think, Ireland's best financial planning firm. So I don't think you actually need to do it. You need to have people around you who can do it. And number two, I think there's an awful lot more to. You guys have all focused on certainly Nick and Andy, on the kind of nuts and bolts of this. I'd much rather be delving into the softer side of this with the clients, and that's the bit that inspires me. So I don't think, if you can't actually use Voyant, you're not a financial planner. I don't know. There's paraplanners out there that can do that stuff for you. I think it's a lot more about interviewing and discussing and teasing out goals, dreams, and aspirations. And I'm sorry for using the three words again, but I passionately believe that that's what real financial planning is.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah,
it's exactly right. Because unless you do that, you're not going to go to the next part.
That's right. Listen, this is why we tend to get on, because we agree on lots of things, but we also have areas where we just do things differently. But all of what we do, I think, is right. That discussion the way to close that sounds right to me. Okay, I think it's time for us to move on to what many people call Culture Corner. Now, I did have a Culture Corner item. I think I'll hold mine over to the next episode, because we've had a real humdinger of a show, and we're at the hour mark already. Mr. Smith, you have a couple of Culture Corner things to discuss. Crack on, sir.
Yes, just a couple of, in the interest of time, very quick ones. There were two, what I call white papers, documents that have been written in very recent times. One is from Vanguard, the big asset management company that we all know. It's called Vanguard Value for Advice Model paper. So it's very new. Many of the listeners will be aware, and we've all seen this stuff in the part, the Advisor Alpha, a document that they produced a number of years ago. I always thought it was a bit weak, honestly, for some of the assigning basis points for portfolio rebalancing and things like that. I thought, well, you can get that. Machine does that. This is far, far better. It is a fantastic document. They've gone really scientific. They've got PhDs crunching the numbers, and they've identified the value with lots of examples of the value of engaging with a real financial planner. And they come up with them figures between 83 basis points and 285, 2.85% a year in terms of additional value. They can specifically, it's not waffle, there's evidence and science behind it. So if anyone is having conversations around value for money, definitely check out that paper. I enjoyed reading it. And the second one,
what's it called again, Alan? What's it called again?
It's called the Vanguard. The Value for Advice Model? Value for Advice Model. We will put a link in the show notes so people can go and download it.
Yeah, I just opened up the link, Alan, and it's opened up. You don't need to be registered with Vanguard. I mean, I've got it. No. It's a PDF here on my screen. So
it's obviously it's a US thing, so it's all quoted in dollars and so on. But this stuff is obviously international. But it's one of the better ones I've read in many a year. And the second one is someone who is well known to, I think, to all of us and most of the audience as well, certainly in the UK. Brett Davidson. Now, Brett Davidson I've known for donkey's years. I think it was one of his first clients because, as you know, I'm a consultant junkie, sign up for all these people. Brett's fantastic, I think. When he first came to us from Australia to the UK, we engaged with him. And he's produced a new paper, let me see, I don't know, it's always called something like Needle in a Haystack. And again, it's very timely. A lot of times I read Brett's stuff and I think, well, I've just been thinking exactly about that. So he's got, he's very tuned into what the kind of the zeitgeist and what people are talking about. And his is, interestingly, just joining a few dots in our earlier conversations, this paper is around niching, getting very sort of specific around your client base, and then building a service proposition that solves the unique problems that your niche has got. It's a really good paper. It's actually got downloads and links and templates built into it as well. So if anyone is interested in progressing a unique niche focus, it's well worth reading. Great paper by Brett. So that's mine for this week. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Alan. Talking of niching, Mr. Widger, you've got a culture corner section about your episodic promotion of Michael Kitces starts right now, young man.
Michael Kitces has the Kitces Financial Planning Value Summit on Thursday, the 8th of December, and you can buy tickets online. The reason I'm mentioning this again, hi, Michael, is that...
Fanboy alert. Michael.
Surprised you're not wearing a blue shirt.
He is.
Bright
covers
blue.
It up.
Royal blue.
Anyway, this summit
goatee
is there are 7 practicing advisors speaking at it, and as you guys all know, there is nothing like listening to people who have been there and done that, and that's why I recommend people check this out. We'll be attending from a Meta's point of view with the client journey project that we're going to do in Q1 at the back of our minds. And then the second thing, we are recording this the day after World Mental Health Day. So check out Insight Timer and have a go at meditation if you're not already. I liked Sarah Blondin's meditations. So look after your mind, everybody. Really, really important, especially if you're running and owning a financial planning business. It can be stressful. We don't have fun all of the time.
This is
just
true.
Most of the time.
This is true. We carry the weight of
Thank God we don't have real
of
jobs,
families' future expectations on our shoulders, and this audience don't underestimate how much you carry.
Privileged.
And on that note, the great work that we do, which is one of the reasons we invented Trap, because we wanted just to get our voices out there, not just our voices, but the voices of the people, the Spartans out there who will resonate with the show, our Trappists. And I think we're already off to a flying start. Okay, I think, gents, we're at the 1 hour, 2 minutes mark. I think we will tie a bow on that. We'll say goodbye. Please follow us on Twitter @Advisor Podcast. Leave a 6 out of 5 star review on iTunes. Like and subscribe on the YouTube. Goodbye. Thank you, gents. Love you. See you next time.
Thanks, boys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.